Now let's actually print our instructor lists. And there's two ways we can do this. One way is we could add a method to the instructor list class that prints the name of the list and then prints each instructor in the instructor list. And that would work. The alternative way is to put a method in our course instructors UI class. I'm going to put this in course instructors UI class rather than an instructor list because the instructor list really wants to be about the logic of the program, not the interface. And when you're talking about printing things to the console or getting input from the console, that's a very specific user interface. And you really want to avoid putting UI code into your business logic. So instead of putting print statements in instructor list, I really want to put my print statements in course instructors UI. And then later on, if I want to come up with a different interface, for example, I want to do a web-based version of this that writes HTML, or I want to put together a UI with PyGubu that displays the instructor lists in a tree view. I can do that without changing instructor list at all. So the logic in instructor list is going to be the same even though the user interface code is different. So given that, what I want to do in course instructors UI is going to be something like this. I want to have a method like, and let's go ahead and I'm going to make this a static method because I really only need one of them. So static method, let's do print instructor list. And then it's going to take an instructor list. And let's just go ahead and we'll print the instructor list dot get name. So I'm going to have to provide this method, make sure that that exists. And then let's go ahead and put a colon after that and then no separator. So it'll print instructor list colon. And then what I want to do is something like for instructor in instructor list, print instructor. And maybe we'll go ahead and put some spaces in there. So that would be 3 spaces plus a separator space to tab this over a little bit. So this is what I want to do, but it's not quite there yet. So let's actually, I'm going to call this and we'll see what happens when I do that. So, so here, instead of printing course lists and course lists of 0, let's go ahead and print instructor list. Under course lists sub 0. And then this is a static method, so to call it, I can either call course instructors UI dot print instructor list, or I could even call self dot print instructor list. Either way will work for this particular static method. So let's go ahead and run it and see the error that we get. Okay, so the error is that instructor list object has no attribute get name. That's not the error that I was looking for. So let's fix that. So in instructor list, let's add a getter for name. And this is just going to return self.under_name. So let's run it again. Okay, so this is the error I was expecting. So instructor list object is not iterable. So a list is iterable. You can loop through it one item at a time. A tuple is iterable. A dictionary is iterable. You can loop through the keys one key at a time. A string is iterable. You can loop through it and get one character at a time. But an instructor list is just an object. and Python doesn't know how to iterate through it. But we can tell Python how to iterate through an instructor list by overloading two methods. So the first method that you want to overload is under iter. So I can def under iter under. And this is supposed to return an iterator. So what is an iterator? Well, an iterator is just a chunk of state that tracks a position in a sequence as well as the sequence. And then the iterator has to be constructed in such a way that it supports a next method. And then when you call the next method on the iterator, it returns the next value in the sequence. So basically you have two pieces of state. You have a position and you have a sequence. And then this is all tied together via a next method that will take that state and will return the next item in the sequence given the current position. There's a complicated way of doing this, which would be to actually create an object or a list or a dictionary, some piece of data that I can return here that has a next method that I can call. Or there's an easy way of doing this. So the easy way of doing this is I already have an iterable in my class, which is this instructors list here. And so if I call iter under iter on my instructor list, I can just return self.under instructors and then pass that to iter. So iter will take a list and will return an iterator. And then the iterator that it returns already has a next method defined. And so this is really all I need to do to make instructor list be iterable. So it says if you want to iterate over an instructor list, just iterate over this list of instructors instead. So now if I run it, I get my list, all instructors, and then there's all the instructors. And then if I want to loop through all of my lists, I can do this. I can say for instructor list in self.under course lists, because this is just a regular list, so I can iterate over it. I'm going to go ahead and call my, actually I have a bunch of empty space here. Let me get rid of that. So for each instructor list, I'm going to call print instructor list on that list. And then I'm going to print a blank line. So let's run that. Actually, for instructor list and self.under course lists, print instructor list. Let me put a breakpoint there and run it under the debugger. Let me actually right click on that and select debug. We put a breakpoint here instead. Oh, so this isn't self because it's the class property. So let's try that now. There we go. All right. So what I got is my all instructor lists and then CIS 120 list. And all instructors should go from Rocco to me. So let's make sure that we printed all of them. So here's the all instructor list and it goes from Rocco to me. And then for 120, it should go from Rocco to Jeff. And it does. And then 121 should go from Po Chin through Greg. and it does poach in through Greg and so on.